This is meant to be like kind of like just a casual conversation. So we'll do the different topics. We'll throttle some questions.
Yeah, this is so exciting. This is like, I really loved both the topics that you thought.
Let's go ahead and get started. So this is going to be the writer's block for February 24th, but this is also going to be a separate YouTube video that you'll be able to watch on its own. And so here I have the lovely Cheryl Phillips. Hello.
Hi.
And she is an author of The Last Nautch Girl, as well as the Fated to Live and Fated to Die series. No, wait a minute. Hold on. Fated to Strike. There we go. Don't forget the list. but yeah. So today we're going to be talking about some, like, this month is guilty pleasures. So things that we enjoy that is considered, like, by the mainstream, we all call it trash, but we all read it or consume it. You know, it's like our favorite thing while no one's looking, that we don't want to admit that we enjoy. And so we're hitting on topics that involve that. So do you want to do the trope or the shipping one first?
We do the shipping. We can start with the shipping.
We'll start with the ship. Who doesn't want to start with shipping?
Yeah, who doesn't?
So the topic that we wanted to kind of talk about is called the art of shipping. And here's what we pitched as a general outline, which is shipping has come to such prominence over the past few decades within the fan spaces that it comes with the ability to both make and break stories, creators, or franchises. Where has shipping been used for good? When is it turned nasty? And what can we do as fans to better harness our love of characters to cultivate a healthy environment for each other? And you sent me amazing outline on all your thoughts. And so let's just get started. You wanted to touch on the origin of shipping. So tell me about that. Tell me what you found.
Yeah, I was pretty shocked because, see, I've heard of shipping so often when I read manga. So apparently on Wikipedia they are saying that it was in 1996. Some fans they wanted to ship Dana Scully and I think he's Fox Mulder, right, from the X-Files.
Oh yeah, the X-Files.
I love the X-Files. Yeah, I love them, and it did seem to have a lot of good chemistry going. But so apparently they came up with the term relationshippers, and that went on to shippers, and then it went on to shipping, means shipping two characters in a romantic more than a platonic relationship. But somehow it just didn't feel right, because I thought it should be something much beyond that. So I did a bit of research, and it's actually started 20 years before that, more than 20 years before that.
Oh, wow.
It started, it's amazing. Actually, it started with the BL genre, yaoi.
Oh, the boys love the yaoi genre. Yes.
And that's where shipping started, because yaoi just came on because there were people who saw two male leads, and they wanted them to be together. So they started writing fan fiction about two male leads, and that's how that genre just became so popular, because the rest of the people loved it, and just it went on to be called something like slash fiction. For example, one of the examples I saw was Star Wars Kirk/Spock. Yeah, that was one very famous pair.
That's still a strong, popular one to this very day.
Strong. Yes, yeah, very strong even today. So it really worked, and that's how started with the slash fiction, and that really made sense. So it went from BL to slash fiction to shipping. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's actually, I think that is how it started in 1970, not 1996, but it's fine. I mean, I guess everyone would have their own opinion about that. So, what do you think?
I I really feel I really feel that yeah, the shipping probably started a lot. I mean, I am pretty sure I would put bets, but I can't yet find it in the Google search that I am sure
Mhm.
that like in the Greek era that someone wrote some sort of like because we know that there's tons of fan fiction in the from the Greek era. I actually found like obviously we have like during the 18th century we have Dante's Inferno where basically
Oh, yes,
Dante was
yes,
like
that's
fanboying
a very
himself
good
next to
example.
Virgil.
Yes,
Yep.
yes,
We all know that
yeah.
was basically biblical fan fiction.
Yes, yes, sir. I didn't think of that. Yes, I was limiting myself to the manga universe. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Yes, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
So I have to imagine, and then of course, like with the Greeks, I found that like the Aeneid by Virgil was actually kind of like also sort of a fan fiction type thing.
Yes,
So if
yes.
there's like already fan fiction going on that far back in history, I can only
Mhm.
imagine that there has to be shipping fiction of some sort during the Greek era where I'm just imagining like a philosopher just typing like the
Yeah,
uniform of their favorite like
yeah,
slash pairing in whatever world that is popular of that era of their different heroes and stuff like that. So
yeah,
that's
that makes sense.
that's kind of where I took it. But yeah, I do agree. Like for me, I also came from the anime manga background and back when I was a teenager and 20 something, I was doing the yaoi slash fiction stuff. Like Gravitation was really big, Vice Kreutz was really big.
Mhm, mhm.
Tons of like shipping in Vice Kreutz. Like that was a huge sub underground title.
Went, yeah,
And then you
totally.
go
Yeah,
on to and then you go on to like your Oron host club and it
uh-huh,
just
uh-huh.
and I remember Cardcaptor Sakura, the whole like
Yes, card
UA
capture.
with
Yes,
Sakura's brother. I can't remember his name, but yeah, like that was a big thing. Like that's still huge to this day. So
still huge. Yes,
yeah, but like
yeah, and
that's
that was in the 80s, right? That was in 80s. Host Club as well as Sakura.
well, Host Club I think was early 2000s. Sakura I believe was late 90s. Um
Late 90s. Okay, okay.
because that's when they were still like physically animating the cells. But I
Yes,
know,
yes, yes. It's on. Right, right.
yeah. So and then of course you have like your Sailor Moon. So then you've got like your shoujo slash fiction and stuff like that. And but yeah, like I think
Sailor Moon is definitely late 80s. I checked that yesterday online. So that is also another proof that it is much before X Files came in. You know.
yeah, and I really think that as far as like popularizing the word of shipping or how it came into like the mainstream pop culture, I really do think it came from the anime realm of things, like that anime subgenre.
Yes.
Because in the 90s, I remember that these words were pretty ubiquitous for us even then. And that's when it was kind of like no one really knew what that meant. It was kind of like this lingo under the table where,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
back then, anime also like to date and age me. Like back then, you didn't get anime off of the internet. The internet was still dial up at like
No, it was
14
not there.
kilobytes a
Yes.
second.
Yeah.
No, you
Yeah.
went to your local comic book store and you
Yes.
begged them through some random Japanese distributor to see if they could get you anything. And all the manga was in Japanese. So
Something
all
like
of us
that.
are trying to learn how to translate it.
Yeah.
Thank God manga had hiragana like breakdowns from their kanji because otherwise we would have been screwed. Like, and then when you wanted like actual like anime that wasn't like Pokemon or
Yeah.
mainstream stuff, like
Mhm.
I remember there is this, especially here in America, there was this Kodocha Anime was the name of these like underground bootleg fan subbing service,
Oh,
and
okay,
you got it
okay.
in a Barney purple, like indestructible, like Samsung cell phone level indestructible VHS tape.
Wow. That's amazing. Wow.
But yeah, okay, so back to shipping.
Yes.
um so yeah, that was kind
So,
of like that's like our origin of shipping. And of course over the years, especially now in the current era, like this is it's basically mainstream everything.
yes, it is mainstream.
You know
Yeah.
from literary works, popular literary works, to TV, to gaming, to like anything. It's like what they call the rule 32. You just look it up on the internet and you can find all sorts of things. on
Yes, yes,
Wattpad and
totally.
Google and all sorts of craziness.
Yeah, I mean, it's the entire fan fiction universe. It's a genre on its own. It's completely acceptable. It's completely like it has its own audience, its own target readers who only want to read fan fiction. So
Mhm.
it's there. It's great. It's really mainstream now.
Yeah, it's really big. And, and shipping has been a huge proponent behind that too.
Yes,
I mean, shipping and fan fiction are pretty much almost hand in hand. I mean, they're not
hand in hand.
technically
Yes,
mutually exclusive, but one
yes.
doesn't exist without the other in a lot of
Without the
sense.
other. Yes,
You know,
correct. Yes.
if you're dealing with fan fiction, usually someone is shipping, whether it's platonically or not, some sort
Mhm.
of scenario in their head where there's like, okay, well, what if we did this instead of this?
Yes.
Like
Yes,
diverting
yes,
from the canon story has always been the whole process and point of shipping.
yes.
So I guess when we're moving on to the next topic, like because
Yes.
shipping has now become a situation where because it's so mainstream, because there's so many fans, because there's so much and now with the way internet and social media works, it allows basically the fan base to have that immediate connection directly to
Yeah.
the creator themselves. And so we've seen, I'm sure you and I have both seen the good and the bad from
Yes.
the
Totally.
fan side of things.
Totally.
Tell me some
Totally.
examples of some good and bad on your end that you've seen.
So I read one. Of course, Harry Potter has a lot of shipping going on for a very long time. So I read a very small piece, very short story on Draco slash Hermione.
Mhm.
And I really liked it because I thought, compared to Ron and Hermione, Draco and Hermione had a very good, their characters uh, mutually diagonally opposite characters, and as a I love those kind of
It was your guilty
chemistry.
pleasure.
My guilty pleasure. It was amazing. So I really liked it. The story itself was not so great and it didn't end very well, but the ship was great. I really liked it. Then there was another ship I read was Remus Lupin and Sirius Black.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was also very nice. It was very healthy kind of ship. I really thought it was very healthy, but I don't know. Many people might disagree. They really like him with his fine. What's her name? I forgot her name. The final partner. But
Ginny?
yeah, no.
No.
Remus Lupin.
Oh,
He
Remus
the
and
Metamorph Magus.
Tonks.
Yeah, Tonks. Yeah.
There we go.
So
It's
I
been a
think,
while.
but I thought the Remus slash series was a great ship. So those in that sense, I thought it was pretty healthy. It talks about gay equality, it talks about diversity, inclusion, a lot of things. There are good to shipping also. It brings to light certain themes which mainstream genres may not. I mean, I have started including now, but it was not there before. So in that sense, it is great. But there's the negative side. Of course, maybe you want to talk about the positives before we go into the negatives. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, for me, I think from less of a specific shipping pairing, I think in general as a whole, I like the aspect of shipping as far as the good it's done is for people who wanted a different outcome, and
Mm.
so it gives them an outlet to kind of like express how they would have written the story or a route that they would have gone. As far as the good and the good qualities is that it does bring a community together in that respect. You get to find your people and
Yeah.
you know
Yeah. Right.
and then people and like everyone can kind of huddle together, they can squeal and do their thing, and it a lot of shipping and fanfic writing and just being able to find people, especially with and like you said, with the gay quality and things like that, it gives people who may seem like they're isolated in their area or they can't
Yes.
find their people in where they physically live, it gives them
Yes.
a space online to find their
Online
people, to find their
to find everybody.
community.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that in a way that is acceptance. Yes, correct.
Yeah, and I feel that aspect of fan fiction and shipping and being able to just share that mutual love, it's similar to like an online anime convention or something, or a geek convention where it gives people a space for, you know, everyone to kind of congregate and be able to share that mutual love for something. And I always felt that that's been a positive influence in many people's lives, you know, especially through, you know, childhood, adolescence into adulthood, like that during those formative times, you know, having something that you enjoy, especially like your books, your stories to enjoy, and then share alternative stories with.
Share it, yes. Yeah, the joy of sharing about that, talking about that with someone who understands, who can relate, who can, you know, feel the same way. That's also a great positive to it. Yes.
Yeah, so that's the aspect I took on that front. But then with where there is light, there is darkness.
Yes, yeah, totally.
So give me some examples on where it's turned nasty as far as you've seen.
So there was this, if you remember, one of the really famous series called Xena, the warrior, Xena Warrior Princess.
I remember that. Lucy Lawless, my girl.
Yeah, I love them both. So that one, it was it went to a very high level of shipping wars on that, because a lot of people wanted Xena and her best friend as a ship. And
I think it's Gabriella.
Gabriella.
There we go.
Yes. So they that ship, many people loved it. I loved it. I think they really had that chemistry. But there was an entire faction that was completely against it, and I don't want to go into their reasons. But Lucy Lawless, she was great enough. She actually spoke on TV saying that yes, it was definitely, there was a chemistry, and these are not her exact words, but she said that yes, it was there and it worked, and that is why the entire it went on for that long, you know, the entire franchise. But there was so much trolling, so much angst against it as well as for it, you know. So shipping wars really gets dirty. They had to, I think, I'm not sure if that is why they closed it down, but yes, it literally at the same time they ended the show. So that is one nasty thing. Then especially in yaoi and BL, there is a lot of fantasy. I'm not sure if you're allowed to say that on a recording, but
I'll bleep it out.
There. Yeah, maybe you want to put a ping or something.
I gotcha.
So it's there. A lot of the characters don't show consent, which really becomes, I think it's very very nasty, that bit of it. And then there's I hate the romance where the ship is about someone who is very old and literally another person who's a kid, maybe 10 or 12 years old. So those ships, I find them, I'm not comfortable with that kind of shipping. Let's keep children out of it, you know, like that. And then there's love triangles, of course, is always there. There is one more thing that I really did not like is when a ship actually diverges from the main plot. Literally, like you decide that, okay, of course, fan fiction, you will write your own story, and that's what it's supposed to be. But when you literally change, the main plot is completely gone, you know, the main bottom plot. And it's like, for example, how do I give an example? There was one, okay, I won't name anyone. There was one character in Marvel universe, actually, and he's put into a totally different universe, and his entire personality is different from what his original personality was in the Marvel universe, which I was like, I don't like this character anymore, you know. So I'm not sure about this kind of so these kind of ships, plot damages might not be exactly nasty, but the top three are definitely definitely go out of
So
you can't enjoy it anymore. It's no longer guilty pleasure. It's really just it's just guilt.
so on that
No
last
pleasure.
one, what I'm hearing is it's and this is a subgenre and category in and of itself, which is called alternate universe, or AU in most cases. So what you're basically saying is that, you know, let me know if I'm incorrect. You're not against
Yeah.
AU in general, but you're just against
No.
AU in the sense when the character they're portraying, like it's like, we'll just say Superman. We'll just, that they put him in this alternative universe, in this alternative situation, and the character does not retain any of its original
Yes,
personalities, characteristics,
Exactly.
character
Yeah.
choices or decisions that they would typically make, even if they were thrown into an alternate reality. They're not even staying true to character form. And it's not even done in a way where it was intentional, like a bizarro Superman, like where, okay, now they're evil,
Yes.
we're flipping this. And it's just okay,
No.
we're Superman, but we're not portraying any,
Yes.
it doesn't have a rhyme or
Any of the
reason.
original qualities. Yes,
Gotcha.
exactly. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah,
And there's also like his reaction to every situation is completely different from before. Like we are used to seeing his reaction, and now his reaction is maybe more submissive, more subdued, more not positive, not assertive. That would have been in the original. Like that.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay. Yeah, that's fair point. And keep in mind that there are like people who do enjoy that kind of stuff. Like they're like, okay, well, what if X character is a submissive as opposed to like, or in certain cases, there'll be characters that are more dominant, and then just having it where they pair them up with another character that's even more alpha, if you want to use like a term. So then it's just trying to, so a character that would normally be more aggressive is now put into the same box with an even more aggressive person.
even
And now
more
it kind of like flips or transitions it puts them in a situation that they're normally not, like, that's not standard for them. So I understand the appeal of that. Like sometimes you just like to dabble, like what if, but it's not for everybody. I would have to agree with you on the great age, the age gap, the, pretty much borderline or diving straight into CP, if we were to really get into that front. I know anime, in general loves to really, or manga, the Japanese artistry in a lot of cases like to do these things. And I'm seeing it, and I thought like in this day and age, I'm just like, oh, I'm seeing it a lot more often. But then I go back into like 90s and 2000s, and it was just as prevalent then as it is now. It's just that now that it's so mainstream, like back then, America could only afford to bring over so many things. Okay. So most of the crap got distilled out, for an Americanized audience with high censorship rates. Whereas now it's just kind of like, well, now we have all of these anime industries that can just bring in everything. And so now you're getting like, oh, the character's 1,000 years old, but is designed to look like not an adult. Let's just put it that way. And then they're putting them in all of these, fan service scenes. I'm going to use mildly. And so that type of shipping, whether it's canon or not, I agree with. I feel that that's treading on dangerous ground on a lot of fronts. And unfortunately, it just
more like unhealthy ground.
Yeah,
it's
unhealthy ground.
It's not, it's like we know that certain characters are supposed to be like children, and it just opens up a whole new debate. Is this acceptable? Is this not acceptable? Like that. So it's just unhealthy.
Yeah. And then for me, on to go a little bit elsewhere, as far as like, so we'll go again in the animation department, we'll go the American route this time. We'll do the remake of Voltron. Okay. That one had some hardcore shippers there. Like we had the Keith and Lance shippers, and they are very intense, very intense. It did get nasty to the point where like a lot of the voice actors were being harassed, threatened,
Yes,
you
yes,
know, that
yes,
kind of stuff.
yes. That is nasty.
And
Yes.
that's just not cool. Like there's no, I mean, at the end of the day, yes, these are stories, and a lot of them, I mean, stories help, you know, in a lot of cases save people's lives. All right. Not to be
Mm.
totally hyperbolic, but, you know, there's a lot of people that they find themselves in a bad place, and their outlet through these stories helps them get through difficult times. So I'm not trying to dismiss that aspect of it. But when you get so wrapped up in a ship, especially a love interest ship, whether it's canon
Mm.
or not, or what have you,
Mm.
at the end of the day, it's still fiction. At the end of the
Yes,
day, it's
correct.
still a character. And at the end of the
Yes,
day, there's still a human being behind that creative process, that if it doesn't go your way, there's still no excuse for crossing that boundary of negativity. We'll just put it that way. There's just no
yeah,
excuse.
totally. Yeah.
You
There's no
know,
excuse. No, it's the same thing happened on Xena as well. A lot of the people got trolled and all, and it's not right. You know, everybody has a right to their own opinion and what story they want to come up with, and it's not right to. You might not agree. You don't agree. Switch off your screens. Put your book down. Don't read it. Yeah,
yeah.
but don't watch the show.
Stay
But
off Twitter.
yeah, stay off
Take
Twitter.
a
Don't
break.
discuss about it. Whatever. Take a break. Yeah, take a break from it. But
Touch grass.
yeah, you don't have to be abusive. You don't have to be so direct about, oh, this is not right. And I mean, trolling itself in any form for any situation itself is unhealthy.
Yeah.
Is unacceptable. Like that.
Yeah.
So
And so that kind of leads us into like our final
yeah,
topic,
yeah,
which is like, or not
yeah.
topic, but our final question is like, what can we do as fans to better harness our love of characters, cultivate a healthy environment for one another? And I mean, you know, there's a lot of great example. I mean, social media, you see the best and the worst in humanity. I'm not gonna lie.
I know.
I'm not gonna
I know.
lie.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, and so I think
Amazing.
you know, and I understand that, like, you know, I would have to say, like, we need to be better at calling people out, but not in an aggressive way. Like, I mean, maybe in a healthier
Ah,
way, as
yeah,
in,
healthy debate, a healthy debate. Yes,
yeah, and I mean,
yes. So even if we disagree with someone, we need to accept that it is that person's opinion. So my basic view would be that, like I said, tolerance. Like even if some people, you cannot stop them. Yeah, that there
mhm,
should be they should be told that, look, be tolerant of the other person's views. Be You might put your view forward, saying that, okay, I think this is not right, I don't like it. Like I just told you, like, I did not like that Superman, for example, was put in a alternate universe where he's more submissive, where he's not the real Superman anymore. Yeah.
mhm,
So put it forward, but maybe there is someone who actually likes Superman in that way, in that alternate universe. So I would just put it forward that, look, this is what I feel, and you can disagree with me. I'm not going to read that book. I'm not going to watch that show because I didn't like it. Simple. Leave it
mhm,
at that. And maybe if they want to go into a healthy debate, I can talk about, look, this is not his original character. This is not what we know from the original mainstream comic. Yeah. But and the other person can say that, no, I that's fine. There's no need for me to, there is no rule saying that I have to follow the original comic. I have to do exactly what happens in the original plot. I can have my own plot. I can have my own characters. I dream of Superman in this form. So that would become a healthy debate in both cases. But if
yeah,
I go say that, no, you are this and you are that and you are not right, and I don't care what you think, this should be banned, should be shut down. That is where it becomes like, I'm not tolerant anymore. If I do that, then I'm not tolerate. I'm not being I'm not respecting the other person as a human being who can have their own opinion, and that is
yeah.
what it comes down to. So that should be emphasized. Like, have your debates, let it be at a tolerant level, have tolerance for the other person. So yeah, that's what I thought.
I think like it's, everyone's obviously going to have their own opinions, and there's going to be
Mhm.
people out there that troll, and then there's going to be, people who are, like you've got kids that kind of just, go with their emotions and throttle, but then you've got
Yeah,
adults that
yeah.
adults do that too. I think, as a fan community, as a, shipping community in general, we should, you may have your absolute diehard favorite, but just squeak in that ability to have some tolerance, to know that, like, hey, people,
Yes.
different strokes for different folks. Okay. And
Yes.
if they're
Yes.
not on
Totally.
board with what you absolutely stand, it's just like, okay, well then maybe rather than like diving in immediately and going for broke on Twitter and coming at people like at 1,000 miles an hour, maybe just be like, you know what? Keep scrolling.
Keep
just
scrolling.
keep
Yes,
just
keep
keep
scrolling.
going.
Go
Just
ahead.
mind
Keep
your own
scrolling.
business and go.
Yeah. Find your own Superman. Go ahead.
And I mean, if someone is being toxic, like, just, I mean, and like I said, I do see a lot of examples of people like stepping in and, doing a great, like, if you're ever going to step in to call someone out, it should always be from an approach of de-escalation, as opposed to, trying to see who gets the smart, snarkier insult in, and that just escalates the
Yes.
situation,
Yes.
which just feeds more of the toxicity. So, I mean, take a step back, and maybe before you hit send on that Instagram post or that Twitter
Think about
or
it.
that
Think
TikTok
about it.
video, just double think, like, or, is it really necessary? And is this going to cause more harm than it is good, before you hit the send button?
Yes, totally. Yeah, I agree with that. And I think I think fan fiction is very much mainstream, but I think one more thing should, I'm not sure about this, but I thought it would be a good idea where we get an author's consent, saying that, look, I'm going to write a fan fiction about your character, and this is the kind of story I'm planning to write. And the author can obviously see, most authors will not say no, because for them it becomes like a way to connect to your target readers, to your audience. So they might agree, and they might be able to give an input saying that, okay, maybe my character is a child, so please ensure that it does not go through anything nasty. My character is Superman, so please make sure they stick to their, main roles, like that. So maybe authors can give their input. I thought that would be a good way to legalize fan fiction to a level where, we can stop the nasty trolling, we can stop the shipping wars, like that. We can avoid the fantasy and children and all that, so that's what I thought.
I think, yeah, and that kind of like delves into a whole different topic that maybe that can be our next conversation on
Yeah,
a different
yeah.
day, is the legalization of fan fiction.
Yeah.
I would have to say I disagree on multiple
Okay.
different levels. But I want to stick to shipping and not go too off on a tangent. But I in general, I have seen very mixed to, as far as a lot of traditional authors, I see the old guard saying no. And I see newer authors, because we're all trying to build a fan
Okay.
base, going, yes,
Right.
please, like, write fan fiction,
Yes,
like, love
right,
my
right.
stuff. Please show me that you love me. Like, do something. Like, yeah, for me personally, if someone wrote a fan fiction on shipping any of my characters from Key of Arcandus, I would just be over the moon, being like, okay, you're valid. Like, I acknowledge that this is your passion, and I'd be all over that. But a lot of the old guard authors, it really wasn't until
Um,
Rowling
it
came
wasn't.
in where
Yes.
she kind of just opened the floodgate. And of course, I'm going to say this with the acknowledgement that JK is currently a very problematic creator for, you know, her LGBTQ plus stances, especially on the trans right thing. So I do want to make that a verbal acknowledgement, but prior to understanding where she stands on those issues and putting those to the side at the moment, as far as the shipping and acceptance of fan fiction, she was really the first published author
she was,
to basically say go for broke, because a lot of authors from before that, like, I mean, I know Anne Rice would get into a lot of spats with people on her stuff. I know that George R.R. Martin is very against it. Like, I mean, he is very, very,
okay.
There's a spite against his fans in that regard.
Yes, he was against it, but I think recently, since his shows started, he's because on the show a lot of changes are there, so I thought maybe he's changed his mind, but he was very much verbal about it. And with J.K. Rowling, she was actually, she was one of the first authors who faced it. You know, she was like, she actually said that I didn't even know that something like this existed. It was like an underworld, this shipping underworld. I didn't even know it existed, and I was thrown right in the middle of it, and I just didn't know how to react. I was literally drowning in it. But yeah, she is. So I can imagine how she must have felt. So yeah, maybe that is one aspect of it. But my feeling was more like I said, the new authors, they are really happy to have a fan base, so they would be more happy for something like this. So that was my more my feeling. But yeah, makes sense. Yeah, older authors have probably not going to be so happy about it. Yeah.
And you know, there's a lot of different legal ramifications on that front too. I mean, and again, like I said, we can parse this out on a different conversation regarding, you know, how fan fiction and canon work, like both are symbiotic and clash with one another. That can definitely be a topic for another discussion, which would be awesome to do that.
Awesome.
But so yeah, I think the shipping thing, we've got kind of like a nice little like scratch the surface conversation on that. I'm really happy about that. Shall we move on to our trope topic?
All right. One last thing I just want to add, Lauren, is about the consent in fan fiction.
Yes.
Sorry, in shipping, especially when you like, consent should be emphasized. That's one more thing that would help us make it healthy. You know, because consent is important in almost every genre. It's not just in shipping. It's in the mainstream genres, in films, in all media. So consent between two adders is something I want to see in shipping, which I'm not. I haven't. I mean, I don't read those pieces. Obviously, I just put them aside. But it would be nice, you know, to see that. What do you think?
Well, actually, I think that segues us into our next topic, because technically that the consent does fall under a category of our tropes that we are talking about that are toxic. And so with that brings us to the turncoat tropes thing. When our favorite tropes and characters are actually toxic AF in reality, and how do those stories impact society when they become mainstream? Are these toxic indulgences acceptable to consume as quote unquote guilty pleasure puff pieces? In what context would these toxic elements be better presented to impressionable individuals such as YA young adult readers? And I feel like consent is like a real big one. So let's get started as far as like types of these toxic, or what I like to nickname turncoat tropes that people just absolutely love, but we know they are not healthy to consume. In reality, they're not good.
So I think one of the most famous, of course, going back to Harry Potter, famous turncoat trope is, Sirius Black turns out to be secretly innocent, and Peter Pettigrew is secretly the traitor, you know. That's one of the big that really hit us back in the, at least it hit me in back in the day, and it on and it became like, it became a guilty pleasure because I think I love that book. It's my favorite book of the entire series. Book 3, Prisoner of Azkaban.
Oh,
so
yeah.
The thing with turncoat tropes is I think I'm not completely against them, but I'm not also entirely in favor of them. I would be more of what I have seen. Most of it happens in anything related to crime drama or war or action thrillers, and most of it is a negative vibe. Yeah. So the types of turncoats you have is like the traitor, the secret loyalist, the fake defector, frenemies, rivals. These are all the types you have, and you we always think that anybody who is like a traitor is, anybody who's called a turncoat is probably a traitor. It's like calling them a traitor, and they would take it in a bad way. So it's like it's something to do with the villain's character. It has to be the antagonist of the story, and that's where I'm not entirely. So then what happens if we have a male lead, we have a female lead, or we have a hero who has certain, who does a turncoat, during the story, that person becomes suddenly that person becomes either they are slammed completely or as negative, or they are glorified that wow, this person could do it. They've done something great. They're like glorified rogues, glorified renegades. So that is where I feel in both cases it is toxic. When you want to accept it as a negative thing and you make it a guilty pleasure as a negative aspect of your main character's personality, and you think that this is, if he can do it, I can do it. If she can do it, I can do it.
Anyways, so yeah, there is a toxic, I guess falling for the bad boy. I guess for the tropes that I really see that are very toxic. The bad boy trope has kind of evolved over the decades. Like before, it was just kind of like, oh, he's a rebel against authority. Like the Gen X era. Yeah, the Gen X era of the bad boy was mostly like, yeah, he got in trouble with the law. Yeah, he did this. Yeah, he did this. But essentially, he's not a bad person underneath. Like it was more playful. It would just, like he would be kind of like the anti-hero, or they would be the anti-hero that kind of like nudged the angelic protagonist into like breaking free from the restrictions of society kind of thing. But then that's kind of evolved into a more and more toxic, especially nowadays. Now you're dealing with like, this person legitimately, like this character or this bad boy literally like kills people, manipulates them. I mean, they're literally not good people, and yet they're being romanticized and or fetishized as like a desirable character. And and I get it to some degree, but it's when like the manipulators, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm going to be that person. The series is going to continue to get called out, but Twilight,
exactly.
I'm sorry, but like both Edward and Jacob are really toxic for completely different reasons. And I mean, I don't care how you spin it. It just is bad. And it doesn't like, I wouldn't feel so upset about it because like, you have toxic relationships. Like that's just part of life. Like there's always that's always going to be the dynamic. But the thing is that when stories, especially when they're geared towards like YA, or even young to new adult, okay, they just I want to, glorifying sounds hyperbolic, but it's like they don't treat, like the story doesn't treat it as the toxic relationship that it is with any realism. Like
exactly. Oh my gosh. Oh my God. Don't get me started on Twilight. My God. I completely I have so many of my friends who hate me on this part because I literally thought the same thing. I was like, what the hell is happening? How can you be like, and it's supposed to be for YA audience, and I was totally like, no, this is so toxic, so toxic. I don't want to get into Twilight. I'm gonna go on and on with Twilight. I was so much against it. I was like, I've become the toxic troller now.
Yeah, well, and then it's counterpart 50 Shades of Grey, which is just the new adult to adult. Like, I mean, 50 Shades was a fanfic of Twilight, and Twilight was a fanfic of the Draco Malfoy Hermione Granger ship that got, revamped into its own franchise. So, I mean, like I said, fan fiction, another topic of legal fan fiction. Twilight, you haven't dodged this bullet and you will never dodge these bullets even as time progresses. But I would also have to say I'll pick on a different genre, and I know I'm gonna get stabbed in the heart with a stake, but these book series based off of fae or fairy, where and I get it, it's a guilty pleasure. Like I said, this topic is guilty pleasure.
It is guilty pleasure. Totally.
We get it. But these fairies are, and in like Celtic culture and stuff like that, fairies are evil MFers. Like they are not nice. Like there's no Disney-fied Tinkerbell. Like they are evil little cretins. And so a lot of this, fairy genre where they're not, they're portrayed as like, full-sized human-esque with just really pretty features and a lot of supernatural abilities. But a lot of these characters and these love interests and stuff like that are toxic AF. They're manipulative. They're downright, like they do evil shit to one another, and they do really terrible things to the protagonist too.
Yeah.
And I mean, in some instances, you get the, protagonist learns to stand up for themselves and outsmart this group. But the fact is that in the end, they always end up with the, it's not even a friends to lovers trope. Or even enemies to lovers. It's literally it's Stockholm syndrome. You fell in love with your captor.
Yes, with your captor. Yes.
You fell in love with a psycho.
Yeah, I mean, the fae, what you're saying about the fae phenomenon is very much there. But I actually do. I just want to add that, especially in Bollywood, in Hindi movies, in Hindi films, it has always been there for ever since, and it is. There's actually a lot of people in India who are against it. It's literally like you fall in love with your character, and it's not acceptable. It's not just toxic. It's literally leading to, and literally telling a woman that even if you have to accept this man as your partner, or you have to, even on just not just man and woman, it can also be man accepting another woman, for the same reasons. So it's literally like the fae world is literally mirroring what is already Bollywood is being forced to get rid of, like nowadays they're making films where they are trying to portray that a healthy enemies to lovers approach rather than the Stockholm syndrome approach. But I'm the fae books are actually mirroring the whole thing, and I don't know how that happened. I'm sure there's no connection between the two, but it was very very, I didn't know about the Celtic fairies, to be honest, but I could feel that this fairy is literally like the Twilight vampires. There's not much difference between them,
Yeah.
So
and and I'm not gonna, I mean, obviously I'm not coming after the people who love the fae genre, because I will get crucified. But and I dived into a few of them, and I mean, they're just not for me. I ended up like the characters that I liked were like the side characters that had nothing to do with half of this shit. because
So
they
true.
actually were just living their own lives and they just know how to navigate around this crap and they don't get involved. And if they do, it's very little. And then they DTD right out of the book. And I'm like, I want to go with that person. They seem to have their shit together. I don't want to be a part of this mess.
I don't want to be part of this
No.
mess. Totally. Yeah.
But yeah, like those are a series of what I call toxic tropes that are, you know, they sell books though. Like they sell. And what's really interesting though is that, you know, you have the romance genre, which is notoriously written off as the trash genre. And quite frankly, I mean, yeah, you're going to have your like you're just straight up badly written trash, but I tend to read, like, I'm a fan of historical fiction. So whenever I've read historical fiction romance, like the plot is first, the romance is you get to those components, like that is part of the integrated part of the plot, but there's usually something bigger going on around these characters that make it where the intimacy and the toxicity or the relationship struggles are part of the situation. And so it doesn't feel
absolutely
like
yes,
it feels better written to me, even if it is considered trash than most of what I consider contemporary really popular genres right now. I feel like romance is just, I mean, because they've had decades to really nail this crap down on a dime, whereas the YA NA, you know, field is still kind of, I mean, they're getting better, but they're still feeling the roots out on how to make that work a little bit smoother for them. I don't know. Like
yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, romance, I guess many people think of romance as trashy because they think it's not realistic, it's something fantasy related and all that. And the YA audience, they're all young blood, you know, they don't want fantasy, they want aggression, they want chemistry, you know, that type. So I love historical romances. I love reading them. Sometimes it's my guilty pleasure. I can't help it, but I really love reading them. And sometimes just a sweet plot, simple, sweet plot without too much negativity. It really helps me because I read a lot of horror also. I love horror. That's another guilty pleasure. But a sweet romance always helps, and it's somehow YA does not do that for me.
Yeah.
Some YA is very well written. I mean, something that actually I read a YA author saying that let's be responsible when you write for a YA audience, and that kind of book is great. But yeah, there is just too much toxicity in most of the books right now. But going back, like a manga especially has really, I think it addresses this issue really well. Yeah, the turncoats, they addresses really nicely. I feel because they put a near positive approach to a character who is a turncoat. You know, they either like they'll either be a frenemy or a rival. You know. I'm not saying frenemies are all good. I'm not saying that, but the way they portray it is like like one of my favorites is Sanosuke in Rurouni Kenshin.
Oh yeah, Sanosuke.
He's my favorite. He went to Kenshin because he thought I am the strongest and I want to be the strongest and I want to have a duel with you and I will win. You know, I want to fight you only because you're strong. And then when he loses, he becomes sorry for the spoilers if anybody's not seen.
Hey, that series has been around for 20 plus years. At this point, if you haven't seen it, that's on you.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. So Sanosuke is one of those I really thought is well handled. Then he goes on to become Kenshin's best friend, and he helps him out. He in the rest, it really helps the plot work ahead. So that kind of trope, I thought the manga has this, and this is very normal in manga. There's Gajil from Fairy Tail. He's also similar. He keeps changing his He left Fairy Tail, he went to Phantom Lord, he came back to Fairy Tail, now he's gone again. So, but it always has a positive side to the toxicity, not to toxicity, sorry, to the turncoat, you know.
Yeah.
And then there's the rival who becomes a supporter, like Mephistopheles in Blue Exorcist. He's he is one of the Satan, you know, one of the devils. He's one of the demons. You know that, but he always and you know he might be up to no good. You keep thinking he might be up to no good, and then suddenly he'll always show that all his loyalties to Rin and to Yukio, you know.
Yeah.
So that I thought that is very, and he's always supporting them. He's always in the back, without telling them, he's supporting them, you know, in some way or the other. So I think that is also handled very well.
There's another show that I really, really like, and it only got one season. Apparently it's been rumored to greenlit a second, but it's this series called The Devil is a Part-Timer. And it's
yes, I heard of that.
Basically Satan goes to Earth in Tokyo from the fantasy world or whatever. And so Satan and the angel end up getting throttled into Earth. They lose most of their celestial powers. And so Satan decides that he's going to climb his way to the top of succession, starting at a McRonald's as a, you know, cashier clerk. And it's just, you know, like it really breaks down the good and evil dichotomy and what makes a good person versus what makes a bad person. And the back and forth between the angels and the demons and all that other stuff that come into play. And that's a real good, like the two main characters, Satan and the angel counterpart, like they do have a very toxic relationship because it's based off of, like, I mean, you know, it's Satan. He did some really bad shit in the world that he was in, and he planned on coming back, and he's like, he's like, yes, I've murdered all of you, and I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna do it again, and I'm not gonna feel sorry. Hashtag sorry, not sorry. But like, then when he's stripped of all his powers and put in this completely alternative universe, and then, you know, as the series progresses, unfortunately, it stops at a point where it really starts to pick up because, you know, they only do one season and then, you know, go read the manga kind of thing. But like, it really, I like it when they have tropes that they twist, like toxic tropes that they kind of twist around and make you like, you know, where it's just like, okay, just because
vibe, right? Make it actually hold, like handle it in such a nice way that you feel good reading it, you know?
Yeah. Like and not all YA is like this. I mean, it used to be like early 2000s YA was kind of a different beast as far as like, and we're talking about YA that like got super popular. Like obviously YA spans a huge genre of different types of material. And so like specifically we're honing in on the very popular YA titles, and you know, and now going into the 2010s, especially the latter 2010s, now going into 2020, you are seeing a lot more YA out there that is much better as far as handling healthy relationships, toxic components that characters have to work through to either get better or learn to walk away from. Like, I think that's where and luckily we're seeing that more going into, you know, as YA continues to progress, evolve, and, you know, refine itself as an entity of a really popular genre of reading in this day and age. You know, what especially since who it's catering to, you know, like obviously you're going to have your adult 30 somethings reading it for their own guilty pleasures and stuff like that. And that I'm not really talking to. Okay. I'm talking about, you know, like the teens and the early 20s where, you know, those you're still developing as an adult, you're still developing as a person, you're still trying to figure out who you are and where your place is in this world. And having books that tackle these toxic relationships or toxic interactions, both either from especially from a love interest perspective, you know, as well as friendships with family and stuff like that, and learning, like having the story give some sort of tool set on how to better handle that, rather than like just accepting being this blank slate character like Bella is in Twilight Bella. Yes.
Yes,
And
yes.
just let stuff happen to her as it went. And, oh no, don't, but like
Mm.
having it transition to where you're actually like the protagonist is going through a tool set, so that way they learn, yes, I'm being taken advantage of. And,
Yes,
I decide
correct.
where I go with this. Like I have a choice to make. And, stuff like that. Like you can still make romance and those teen feelings and like that turbulent time in your life where you're dealing with all sorts of wacky shit being thrown at you, both
Yes,
toxic
yes,
and, but find a way to like, I don't know, glorify healthier ways to both love and move forward in life. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm being preachy. That could be me.
no, 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 it's very important. I mean, even at early 20s, I personally feel, yeah, fine. If you think I'm preachy, that's fine. But early 20-year-olds, I think you're still learning a lot. You still have a lot of experience to encounter. And when you when you reach 30, you'll know what I'm saying. Because yeah, it's if you don't have a healthy example to show you, like you go into a relationship where you don't realize that you are facing, there are many such relationships in the early 20s that you go through. You don't realize that the other person is being in a way, is being narcissistic and all. So if you have a healthy especially books are the best things to teach you, of these things. So you have that healthy kind of a story to read about and understand. It's always going to help you, even if you're 30, even if you're 40, even if you're 50. At some point, I think it's important, especially for the YA reader. Once you are beyond that, you want to explore, but then the exploring is no longer guilty pleasure. It's more for a basis of learning. Once you're out of the YA category,
Yeah.
it's more like when I read a story that has been criticized or has been people say that, okay, this is wrong. There's one book actually, I put it on my TBR. I want to read it because mostly people are saying, no, this is the wrong portrayal of diversity and all. So I want to read it for not for the pleasure of it, but for the learning that, okay, maybe I need to know this to become a better writer. But or I need to know this to become a better human being. Forget writer, be better human being, to understand what is wrong and what is. But at YA level, you don't need that. You will automatically have that. It will become an impression for you. You will not be able to stop the feelings that come out. At that stage, you will not be able to. You'll be confused. Your reaction to it might be different. You cannot completely be expected to keep yourself emotionally detached from a story, which we can do now. I know
Yeah.
I couldn't at 21, 22. I couldn't do that. A story used to make me feel certain way, and even today it does. But of course, today I understand how to detach myself, how to take a step back, and not let it overwhelm me. But at YA level, I think as a writer, it's my responsibility to ensure that the YA readers have that positive to fall back on. Always, there should be a positive to fall back on.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, like I said, when I was that age too, it's
Mhm.
your brain is still developing until you're 25. So
Yes.
during that time frame, like especially when you're from going into your adolescence up until your mid 20s, you love being swept up in these emotions. Like you just want to be
Yes, you love it.
you
Yeah.
love it. It's like it is, and I admit that I'm like that too. Like, okay, I back when Sailor Moon was still on the American channel, all right, in the first
Mhm.
season, when Zoisite stabs Tuxedo Mask and like pretty much kills him to some degree,
Mhm.
like that was on a Friday afternoon, okay, that episode went down. I had to visit family on Saturday. I was crying all weekend and I could not tell my mother why, because if I told her, it would be the most embarrassing thing in my life to tell her. Like, but like, and I knew it was fiction, but like I was just so in love with Tuxedo
Yeah,
Mask. Like
yeah,
that
I can imagine.
I know he's like the equivalent of milk toast now in this day and age for like, but I don't care. He was hot. That's just where I was at in that life. And so I totally get it. Like, when you read stories at that age, you just want to be swept up in the feelings. You're not analyzing from any like
You're not
you might
analyzing.
be.
Exactly.
Yeah, I
Exactly. You're
mean,
not analyzing.
and even if
Yeah.
you know it's toxic, it doesn't matter. You still want to just be caught up in those emotions. And then,
Mhm.
and I see it all the time. It's just like, oh, I would love to have a boyfriend like this. And it's like,
Yes,
no, you
right.
don't, honey. The reality is not good. I know this is what you would like, okay? Because in your head, Hollywood wise, you would hope that this would translate in reality, but that does not translate to reality. And so I guess on our end as authors and creators, I mean, obviously I never want to shy away from these toxic tropes. I'm not saying get rid of them. I'm saying
No, yeah, right. We're not saying that. Yes.
write them in a way that's engaging, that still sweeps up those feelings, but then
Mhm.
find a way to tackle those tropes head on in the story.
Correct.
Give
Mhm.
your readers who are younger and impressionable, especially if you're writing to them, give them more tools to work with. Give them more to enjoy, like give them just as many positive, emotional sweeps as you're given negative, or at least like find a way to counterbalance everything that you're doing. Um,
Yeah.
like I said, in this day and age, and it's not just YA. I know that we're picking on YA a lot, but that's because, a lot of really, really mainstream popular stuff right now kind of falls into that
Right.
YA, current fantasy, hitting where a lot of the protagonists are 18 or younger, they're kids, like they're essentially kids. And
Yeah.
so that, as far as and that's what's popular. So
Yes.
we're picking on it because that's what's currently being consumed in mainstream. And I mean, yeah, we've got a lot of really good alternative titles, but this is what social media is hitting on. You've got
Mhm.
okay, yeah, like your Akatars and stuff like that. Your A Court of
Yeah.
Thorns and Roses and all, and series like that. And I know
Yes.
I don't think Akatar is YA essentially, but I mean the demographic it hits is you know in that age range, regardless of what it's
Yeah.
actually classified as.
Yeah. It's become popular in that age range, so you can't deny it completely. Yes.
Yeah, and then you've got your I know Lee Bardugo does her. Oh, I'm gonna get the Six of Crows series that's also,
Mhm.
highly indulged. I've not read it, so commenters, please don't crucify me to death. But I do know that there's this character who is an antagonist, the Darkling. Okay. And now that six or no, maybe I'm confusing Six of Crows with a different series, but the Lee Bardugo series.
I've not
Okay.
read
The
them, so
Grishaverse is what I'm talking. Okay. So the Grishaverse, people don't crucify me, has like Ben Barnes being cast as the Darkling in the Netflix TV series. So now the lusting has begun. But like from what I recall, this Darkling character is not a good dude. So, I mean, in the end, it's just like, I can say my piece and fans are still going to be fans, and these authors are going to cry their way to the bank with their criticism. Like, in the end, they're getting a fat check out of this. So,
definitely. Yeah. So they don't care.
like, cry me a river with my $100 bills as I deposit them into the bank account, kind of thing.
Yeah. And it becomes more important in that sense as well. Like that's a trouble with money. Money always goes in a certain direction. It doesn't. Um, whether it is whether you're writing a good story or you're writing something toxic, it doesn't matter. If it sells, it sells.
Yeah.
Even the publishers will accept it, and the censorship will even if the censorship criticizes, it will still go through, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, so money aspect is very important point you made right now. And getting a writer who's making $1 million to understand the responsibility they have towards a YA audience is not easy.
Yeah. Or just an audience in general, like,
or just an audience in general.
yeah.
Yes, correct.
Like just being like, you know, if you're gonna play these toxic tropes, like have a balance. Like that's all I have to, that's really all I'm getting to is like, if you're gonna play on these really toxic, dark things, then maybe counterbalance, unless it's in the nature of the genre. Like there are certain subgenres of books where it is designed to be very dark, you know. I mean, horror is definitely one of those genre passes where you're not expecting it to come out okay on the other side.
Yes, you're expecting it to be dark. Yes, absolutely. Like horror is like that. Yeah, even like I read a lot of horror, and there is a lot of things. I'm not taking any names, but one of my most biggest favorite authors. If anybody has read my profile, they will know who that is. His books are full of that. And but it's accepted. That's the genre. You know, going in, it doesn't need a disclaimer. It's horror. Hello, it's horror. You don't
know, your crime
that.
thrillers and stuff like that. Like, you know, going like because of the nature of the genre, because of the tropes that are expected when you go into this, like those are at least those are marketing towards a demographic of readers who they know to separate themselves from this material and that they're just going in to enjoy the ride. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So that reader knows that, okay, I like this kind of book and I know how to detach myself. It will not overwhelm me. Yes, absolutely. So YA, we really need to be like, maybe we should have a YA horror, maybe have a YA erotica, you know?
Yeah.
So that we can have that separate demographic. If YA readers are very adamant that they want to read such books, then there should be a YA dark fantasy. Of course, there is a YA dark fantasy, but I don't think it's at the level of paranormal and really horror, you know, like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really think, and I know that I think back in the 2010s, I don't know if it was early or mid. Okay. Like new age is also a thing, and it's for like the 18 to 20 something, you know, age range. And that's where the protagonist is in that area. Like mine, I classify as adult fantasy, but I gotta be honest, it's more like new age fantasy because a lot of the main character, like Sarone, for example, is 24. So she's in that like new age, like, you know, she's technically an adult, but because of her circumstances, it's like she's having a second coming of age scenario. And I think that might be like, if we're going to flirt with all of these toxic, semi-erotic tropes, then let's call a duck. Make the characters like an adult, a new adult, all right, and go from there, you know. And if young adults want to read it, because, you know, young adults are going to read, they're going to get their hands on all sorts of things, you know, depending on the circumstances. But at least, like, rather than having new age or new adult be nothing but smut, you know, because that's where it kind of got branded as nothing but like kind of like romance 2.0. New adult is just like that. I think like they said, like the dick gate was one of the things that came about on a particular book, but like, you know, really own the new adult genre, as in, if we want to explore these toxic tropes and like just go for broke, let's do it in an area that's definitely, you know, where we're marketing not towards the impressionable, but if they happen to get a hold of it, at least they know genre wise, this is what we're diving into. You know what I mean? I'm probably full of crap, but
no, not at all. I completely understand that bit, and that's an important point. Like some YA readers will go searching for a toxic trope, will go looking for those turncoats, and they will pick up that book that is said that, okay, oh, don't read this. This is not for your age, and they will pick it up. It's fine. I mean, that is a different debate altogether, whether they should or not, But I think in new age, if we address that and show that healthy adult making the choices that they need to make as per the situation, or as per it brings a positive a line to the YA reader. So I agree with that.
Especially because because when you get like elementary school books and you get middle grade, there is a regime of what is expected as far as, especially with like children's books and stuff like that, like depending on the age group within that spectrum, there are certain expectations as far as vocabulary usage, topic approach, and things like that. There is a very specific responsibility on the creator and the author. Through traditional, we're not going to go with self-published because anybody can do whatever. But in those genres, there is a very explicit list of expectations. With YA, I don't feel like, other than character is under 18, but over this age, it's like, okay, well, you're still dealing with not an adult. They might be a young adult, but they're still an adolescent. And so I feel that like, okay, you want to talk on topics like this, there should be a certain certain level of responsibility, especially through traditionally published works, as far as auditing certain tropes as far as how they're being presented or marketed to this demographic. And I know that gets a little bit on the censorship side of things. And I don't want to censor anything, because like I said,
it all comes down to us as writers, how we undertake our responsibility, because in the end, it's I mean, you always have the choice not to write a YA and write a mainstream fiction, if you want to explore a really toxic trope, put it in horror, put it in erotica, put it in one of the mainstream genres. It doesn't have to be in YA. And you can, in the mainstream horror, you can use 18-year-old, 17-year-old, because that mainstream is it's a mainstream. It's not directed at a YA audience. You can still show a child going through certain things in a horror, and it's fine. So don't you need to, as a writer, that is your responsibility to choose the right genre for your work. So that's what I think. That's what I think.
Because I mean, like I said, there's a lot of YAs that are not like fantasy fiction. We'll just call it that, because our Twilights and stuff like that. Those are technically fantasy fiction. That's where a lot of these tropes are lingering in. It doesn't include YA fiction where they're tackling like legitimate like BLM, LGBTQ plus issues and things like that, because there's just as many YA books that deal with toxic situations, but they're doing it from a point of, yes, we're highlighting that this is a bad situation. This is based off of like real systematic racism. This is, I don't want to censor that for a YA audience. Like when a particular author or creator is especially creating fiction and or, YA material, based off of real experiences at that age, whether it's fiction or bibliography or whatever, like, no, I don't want to censor that at all. I'm more along the lines of like, if you're going to create YA fiction, fantasy, or somewhere in that area where it's like, you're literally just playing with shit to play with shit to like, evoke emotions in a young demographic, and you're hitting the young adult audience, I feel there should be a specific level of responsibility on your end to make sure that if you're going to be diving into these toxic elements, that you're at least putting something in there to help provide your young audience a tool of some kind that counteracts those tropes in a way, or to at least highlight or to help your readership, whether they acknowledge it or not is not, on your end, but there is some responsibility on the creator's end to be more conscientious of how they're communicating and how they're writing these tropes with characters to their younger demographic. If they're insisting on targeting an adolescent demographic, you know?
If they're insisting. Yes, right. That makes sense.
I'm trying to say, I'm not shitting on people's good time because I want to. I'm just saying that we older creators who are creating this material for people to read, definitely we always need to be striving to do our best to make sure that whatever demographic we're reaching out to and whatever content we are doing, that we are as careful as possible with the messages that we are attempting to send to
Yes.
whatever demographic that we're going for.
Yes.
I think is the lesson that we're trying to learn in this whole discussion.
Yes.
Would you agree?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's our responsibility at this stage, in this day and age, where we have all these millennial kids coming up, and we read. It is definitely our responsibility. Choose your demographic, choose your audience, choose your level of toxicity, make it relatable to your reader, and have your guilty pleasures on the side. Leave it to that, but don't glorify it as something that is right. Wrong is wrong, crime is crime, war is war.
Yeah.
What is wrong. You don't glorify it as something that is acceptable.
Yeah.
Okay. And like for example, there was this movie in India called Company when I was in my 20s. No, younger than that. I was in my college, so I was in 19 or something. And it glorifies the turncoat tropes as if that person is because it is the circumstances he grew up on, so he didn't have a choice and he killed people. And I, even at that age, I hated that movie. And today also when I look at that movie, I know all my friends loved it in college, and I was like, this is just wrong. Like you're trying to justify something that is actually, like, let crime be crime, let crime be crime. He committed a crime, that's it. But justifying it into a story makes it toxic. The justification of something that is wrong, justification of stalking, justification of the Stockholm syndrome, justification of all these kind of toxic things, that is our responsibility. Don't justify, make it write it in a way that your demographic understands this is the situation, and there's always a choice to make the right choice. There's always a choice to make.
Yeah.
So because that is that in real life also, we always have a choice what to do. Yeah. So
yeah, like if you like tackle it head on and either provide a tool in that, to combat it, or be real in the repercussions that it has. I don't sugarcoat it as like, okay, it's fine. And yes, that this is the ideal scenario that you want out of a character or interaction or relationship, whether it's, parents, lovers, that kind of thing. I think in general, yeah. So, but yeah, everything, you approach it with nuance, I guess, is the best, is the best, walk away that I would have to tell myself when I'm writing, the things that's going on with my characters, is approach it with nuance. But yeah, thank you for coming on and having this conversation with me. This was a lot of fun. Go ahead. A lot of fun. Tell us who you are again. Tell us your socials and your books, and go for it. Yeah, so I am Phillip, and I'm an author, a self-published author based in Mumbai, in India. And I have published, so I've got two series, one historical fiction series, which is which is targeted at adults, and I've got a historical fantasy series. So I've released one book of my series called The Last Nautch Girl. Yeah. And the other series is The Fated to Live. Both are actually, my demographic is mostly adult, but it's it can be read by all audiences.
And yeah, I live in Mumbai. I have 2 kids, and I used to have lots of cats. I don't have them anymore. They all happily passed on. And yeah, I'm so happy to be part of this today's discussion. It was a lot of fun. It was very insightful. It was I think it's going to be a really I hope there are no trolling and shipping wars on it, but I think it was, yeah.
I have a feeling there's going to be some very passionate comments
On Twilight, yeah.
I mean, which will be good because that'll be views and engagement, and that's what we're gunning for anyways, right? So, I mean,
Yeah.
we open this door up. Where can we find your books where can we purchase your books? And then what are your social media accounts?
Last Nautch Girl is available on Amazon only as a paperback as well as a hardcover, and it has ebook, Kindle edition. Fated to Live is available as ebook only or on all online stores. And I have a blog, cphilipwrites.wordpress.com. You can connect with me there. I do a lot of book reviews and author interviews, and I have collection of books called the First Reads collection, which actually showcases the book one of every series in any genre, mainly by self-published authors. So come and have a look at that collection and see if you find your new favorite author or your new favorite series. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll go ahead and put your links in the description below on the video too, so that way anyone can see down below and go into the description and go straight to you so that they have great access to you. And you're on Instagram too, right? So tell us your Instagram account.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. Phillip Writes is on is my Instagram handle. Awesome. And you can connect with me there, and you can connect with me on my email is there on my blog if you want to ever write to me and talk about what we were talking about tropes and shipping.
Yeah, that'd absolutely. Yeah, this video is just here to kick off a conversation. So let's see what happens, right?
Let's see what happens. Yeah.
I'm expecting some very passionate responses. And then
we were no hold bars today.
Yeah, so I will know which nerves I've struck.
Ready for whatever strong response we get. Yeah.
Yep. Constructive criticism.
You opened Twilight to me, and I think people will hate me when they know my opinions on Twilight. I don't go there.
Yeah, I mean, I've resolved myself to being, it is what it is. And she cried her way to the bank account and stuff like that. But I will still stand by that soapbox that it was not a good series. But anyways, I am Lauren Sefcik. I am the author of the debut book Key of Arcandis, which is book 1 in the Carving Legacy series. I am also a self-published author, and you can find me on any major online bookstore with Amazon, Barnes and Noble, or worldwide, whatever online bookstore is your thing. That's where you can find me. You can also go to your local bookstore and have them access through the distribution channels there. I do have an Instagram account. It's Lauren Sefcik. My Twitter is Lauren_Sefcik, and I'll put all the social links nonsense down below. My website is www.sefcik.com, where you can see all of that consolidated in one location. But yeah, that is that. And so without further ado, thank you so much for all your time, Cheryl. It has been an absolute pleasure, and I cannot wait for us to do this again in the future.
Yay, let's do it again. Yeah. Yay. All right. Thank you so much. Yeah, have a nice weekend.
Yeah, you too. Talk to you soon. Take care.
Check out my fantasy novel, Key of Arcandis, through any major online book retailers such as Barnes & Noble and Amazon. Or you can support your local bookstore by having them request a copy through their distribution channels. Links are in the description below.